Welcome to Mastering Camera Projection in Maya. I am Mohammed Saadeh, a 3D animator and a generalist. In this course, I will teach you everything you need to know about creating image projections in Maya. Image projection is used in a huge variety of ways, from corporate videos to movies. It's a big time saver and can get you amazing results really fast. We will work into creating a matte painting in Photoshop and then take it into Maya for modeling, animation and rendering. And lastly, we will use After Effects to do the compositing and exporting the final movie file. It's gonna be a very exciting course and you will definitely learn a lot of really cool methods. At the end of this course, you will be able to convert any still image into a fully animated 3D projection. The possibilities is unlimited. If you are a 3D generalist, video editor, motion graphic artist, or just love 3D, taking this course will give you a big advantage for your career and will enhance your portfolio and take it to the next level. Also, at the end of this course, I will give you 2 assignments for 2 different levels, so you can work on and show me. Without further delays, let's get started. Alright, so let's start by picking the images that will make our matte painting. So let's combine them into one file. Drag and drop on top. These 2 images is great because they have lots of depth and element in them. And align it. So let's hide the first image and select path, create a new path and name it foreground. Select the pen tool and let's zoom in and start cutting the image. You want to be as close as you can to get the variety of shapes. Take your time in this step, you just need to do it for one time. Okay, let's keep cutting. I like to zoom out sometimes to make sure I'm cutting the right part of the image and I don't get confused with the background. Make sure you get the rocks detail. It will be important to make the final result realistic and cool. Okay, we are almost there. Now let's zoom out and close the path. So press V to change to the Select tool, and let's convert the path to selection by holding Command on a Mac or Control on a PC and click on the path layer. Change the name of the background by double-clicking on it and type main. Then Edit, Cut. Edit, Paste Special, Paste in Place to get exactly the same location. Name it Foreground. Move layer 1 to the background. Okay, now we have it there. Then save. See you in the next video. Okay, let's lower the foreground mountain so we can see more depth in the image. Let's adjust the color of the mountain so it blends better. Control-click on the foreground mountain. Go to Image, Adjustment, Color Balance. Let's play with the values to get more blue shades and colder tones. Same with the highlights. Let's keep adjusting the values until we get the best results. Press OK and save. In this video, I already cut all the other mountains in the image using the pen tool. So now we have all the elements separated into different layers. Also, I replaced the sky with another one that have clouds in it. I just took the sky from another image. Here is all the path layers that I used to separate the images. Let's extend the background image so we have more room later for animation. Let's select the mountain. Then let's select the lasso tool. Holding Alt, let's deselect the area that we don't need to extend. Let's tweak the selection. Then press Shift and Delete or Edit Fill and change to Content Aware. And press OK. It's a very powerful tool. Okay, so now it extended the mountain. Let's use the clone tool to fill the gaps by using Alt and click on the location you want to copy. Okay, now we are done. Let's bring back the midground. Great. See you in the next video. Okay, in this video I will show you all the images extended using the clone tool and content aware. As you can see, for the background mountain, the cloning is not perfect, but since it's far, it will work well and no one will notice. Okay, let's start creating all the masks for every image, so we can refine the mountains in Maya using the alpha channel. I'm gonna hide everything except the foreground. Hold Command and click to select the mountain. Create a new layer. Go to Edit, Fill, Black. Let's name Foreground Mask. Create a new layer. Move it to the back and fill it with white. Let's save as JPEG and name it foreground_mask. Quality to 12. Okay. Let's hide the black and save the image again as JPEG. As a foreground white. Let's do the same with the midground mountain. Color it black and name it mid1_mask. Let's save. The reason we are exporting each mountain separate will be to use for the projection shader in Maya. Also, we will use it as a guide for modeling the mountains. This step will make our life much easier later on. Okay, we are almost there. For the background mountains, this time let's save as PNG, so we can have the transparency map included. Let's name it and save. Let's do the same thing with the sky. Last thing is to export the final image as a PNG to use it for the projection camera in Maya. That's it, we are ready to go to Maya and start modeling. See you in the next video. Go to File, Project, New. Set the location of the project. Type the name of the project and click Use Defaults to create all the folders that Maya need to use for this project. Let's create a camera. In the camera shape channel box, scrub down to the Environment tab and click Create. This way we can pick the file for the image projection. Locate the image file in your computer. Okay, now we have the image in Maya. Let's adjust the depth of the image plane to 500. So this way it will push it 500 units in Z-space. So we have more room to model the mountains. Let's move the camera to get similar angle to represent the real camera used in this photo. It doesn't have to be perfect though. Let's keep moving the camera up and line up the grid with the image ground. Now it's in pretty good location. You can see the grid lines is lining up with the ground. Some more small tweaks and we are done. Let's make sure we save our scene. Last thing I want to do is to lock the camera so we don't accidentally move it. Okay, so we're done. See you in the next lesson. In this lesson, we will create the foreground mountains. Let's start by creating a polyplane. Scale it up a little and adjust the subdivisions to 3 for width and height. Let's change the panel layout so the camera view is on the right side and the perspective view on the left side. This way is easier to work with these two views side by side. Scale it up and push it back. Select the inside edges of the plane and move them up to create the general shape. Let's push it a bit back to match the top of the mountain. Lower down the edge that is facing the camera so we get a better slide for the mountain. Okay, select the vertices and start placing them to match the foreground mountain. Now, let's insert a couple of edge loops to increase the resolution of the model. You always want to check from all angles to make sure the edges is flowing well. Let's adjust the vertices to match more and insert as many edge loops as needed. I'm always looking at the perspective and the camera window to make sure it's working for both. The more accurate your model in 3D space, the better result you will get. You can see we start to get a nice shape in the model. Let's keep refining it until it matches as close as we can. I'm always going back and forth between my camera view and the perspective view to make sure it's working from all angles. It's really important. By the way, you can press G to repeat the last command, so you don't need to keep going to the toolbox to click on Insert Edge Loop. Okay, it starts to look really good. I'm pressing 5 and 4 to toggle between shaded mode and wireframe. Couple of more tweaks and we are done. Getting more details in the model will go a long way to make it look more believable and realistic. Now it's looking really good. Let's make sure it looks good in other angles. Perfect. Let's save and see you in the next video. Okay, so let's add the foreground mountain into a new layer. I want to change the camera image plane to the midground mountain, so it will be easy for me to model it. We will change it back after we are done modeling. Let's create a polyplane and change the subdivisions to 3 for each width and height. Let's push it back behind the foreground and scale it up and make it big. Now I will be using exactly the same methods I used for modeling the foreground mountain, using edge loops and moving the vertices around. I want to make sure the midground mountain is big, so it will be easier to sell the idea of its mass when we have the camera moving. Okay, we are almost there. Some more tweaks at the bottom part. Everything is looking good. Let's change the image back to the original one. Just making sure everything is matching well. Awesome. See you in the next video. Okay, let's model the last mountain using exactly the same methods we used to model the first two. Change the image to the third mountain. Let's change the depth to 1000 to push the image back. Okay, let's add the midground mountain on its own layer. This mountain will be easy to model. Always make sure you are considering other angles and having a thickness in the mountain so it will feel it's in 3D and not a cutout cards. Just keep adding edge loops and moving the vertices to match the image. Details is really important to sell the idea and make it look really cool and realistic. Add as many edge loops as you need to reach the level of details that is required to make the model match. Don't be shy. Okay, let's show the other mountains and bring back the original image. Now I have all the main mountains in place. Last thing, let's add the mountain to a layer. That's it. See you in the next video. In this video, let's start creating the projection shaders. Using a Lambert material. Rename the shader foreground. Click on the checker box. Right-click on File and click on Create as Projection. Click on Image, select File. Change the projection type to Perspective. In the Camera Projection attribute, change Link to Camera from None to Camera Shape 1. Everything else remains the same. Let's use exactly the same method for the transparency map. It's important to adjust the ambient color to 1 and the diffuse to 0 to get the natural color of the photo. Select the mountain and assign the shader. Let's select the camera and turn off the image so it doesn't cause a distraction. Switch display mode to none. Let's test render. Okay, looking good. Let's continue to the other mountains. I will be using the exact same method for this mountain and the next one. Creating projection shaders are not hard at all. Okay, this one looks good too. Now the last mountain. Once you practice this method, you will be able to do any type of projection you want. Let's render and see. Nice. We have all the mountains textured and ready for the next step. And see you in the next video. Okay, let's create image plane. And let's type in the X value from the width of the image and in the Z value from the height of the image. You can get this information from image properties in your computer or from Photoshop using image size. Let's assign a Lambert material and assign an image. Rotate to 90 degrees and place it in the back. Let's select the camera and bring back the image, so we can align the background mountain to the image. It doesn't have to be perfect, and it's better if you scale the mountain a little up to get more room in the background for better parallax effect. The reason I'm using cars for the background because it's far from the camera and it will do a great job without trying to model it in 3D. Let's create the polyplane for the sky. I'll be using exactly the same methods. Let's scale it down and push it back. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. Just make sure to push it back enough to create more depth. Depth is key here. Let's rename it and do a test render. Okay, there is one problem. The background mountains and the sky is too bright. It doesn't match the rest. Lowering the ambient all the way down is not helping either. It's too dark. Let's try ambient midway. It's better but still not natural. And the solution for this problem is ambient 1 and diffuse is 0. So it balances out and you get the natural color. So let's do a test render and compare. Okay, now it's perfect. Okay, let's do the camera animation. First select the projection camera and duplicate it. Unlock the attribute and let's move the camera to a different location. Also make sure you are animating in 24 frames per second. I will type the values I use to animate the camera. You can animate the camera the way you want, but don't go too crazy. Select the channel box and right-click and press Set Key. Make sure your timeline is adjusted to 100 frames. I will type the rest of the values. Try to have some rotations in the camera to give a more parallax effect. Subtle camera movement is really the key to make a matte painting look realistic. You will notice that every time a projection is used, the camera movement will be simple, and that will give the animation more power and believability. Let's select and insert key. In the graph editor, select all the keys and press linear, so we have a consistent camera movement. Let's lock the channel box so we don't accidentally move the camera. Do a test render of the last frame to make sure everything is looking good. Press play and watch your animation a couple of times. Feel free to adjust the animation of the camera if you want a more dynamic action. See you in the next video. Okay, let's go to the render settings and rename the file name. Make sure the frame extension is set to name_number.extension. Change the frame padding to 3. Frame range, it should be the full frames from 1 to 100. Change the render camera to camera 2 because it's the animation camera. Image size change to HD 720p. Make sure the image format is set to PNG. Everything else should stay the same. Then let's go to the Quality tab. Change the preset to Production. Change the sampling mode from Adaptive Sampling to Custom. Max to 2 and Min to 1 for higher quality sampling. Everything else is good. Let's add a motion blur. Use no deformation because it's just a camera motion, there is no characters. Motion blur will add so much to the motion. Everything else is perfect. Let's save and then render one test frame. Motion blur will slow down the render time, but the result will be really cool and realistic. Let's switch to rendering and then render batch render. See you in the next video. Go to File, Import File, select the first image of the image sequence. Right-click, Interpret Footage, Main, and make sure to change the frame rate to 24 frames. Let's create the comp. Drag the sequence to a new comp. Okay, so we have everything in place. Let's preview. Looks cool. Let's do curve color correction. Then glow to add some highlights. Play with the settings to make it look right. Create another curve color correction to enhance the coloring even more. Create a new solid for haze. It's very important to add atmospheric effects. Select the rectangle and draw for the areas where we need the haze to be, mainly the top part between the mountains and the bottom part. Now I want to separate the tip of the foreground mountain so it's not covered by the haze. Using the pen tool, let's draw a curve to roughly match the mountain shape. Go to the last frame so we see the full mountain and draw. Okay, let's select the haze layer and press MM for the mask options, and change the last mask to subtract to separate the top part of the mountain. Let's lock the other masks. Select the third mask and adjust the points to roughly match the mountain. Okay, adjust the feather to 150 for each mask for the fading effect on the haze, so it's not too sharp. Let's animate the mask to keep matching the mountain top. Click on the timer beside the mask path to insert a keyframe. Let's move frames to the end and move the points to match the mountain. Go to the first frame and select the whole mask and align it to the mountain top. After Effects will automatically set keyframes. Let's go forward around 25 frames and adjust the mask to align and move the points. Let's move to 73 and adjust the points to match. Okay, lower the bottom haze a bit so it's not too high up. Also, let's reduce the haze in the top part so it stays between the mountains and it doesn't go up to the sky. Change the blending mode to screen and press T for transparency and change it to 70%. Okay, looking better. You can see the before and after. Let's add the particle effects. I have a pre-made particle video. Let's add the particle on top and change the blending mode to screen to get rid of the black background. This way is a fast way to add particles to your scene. Let's create an adjustment layer to simulate a vignette effect. Draw the mask and adjust the points. Press Enter to rename the layer. Then let's create a color correction using Curve. Change the mask to Subtract and press MM. Adjust the feather to 103. And the blending mode to multiply. And press T for transparency and change it. Okay, let's duplicate the layer. Name it Edge Blur. And remove the curve. Change the blending mode to normal. And let's add fast blur. Tick repeat edge pixel and change the blur to 5. Let's create the lens flare. Create a black solid. Generate lens flare. Let's move it to the corner and change it to 105 mm prime. Change its color. Color correction tint. Change it to yellowish color. Change the blending mode to add. Adjust the location to the left. And let's preview by pressing enter. Okay, looks really cool. Let's tone down the brightness a bit and save the project. Okay, so let's render the final comp. Go to Composition and click Add to Render Queue. Click on Render Settings and change to 24 frames. Make sure it's in QuickTime RGB channel and format options is Apple ProRes 444. And adjust the gamma correction is set to none. Then press render. Hit OK and that's it.